And Lois, you can start whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon or morning, whatever time it is in your time zone. I'm Lois Cohen, and I'm a member of the Shills Entrepreneurial Fund Board. What is the Edward B. Shills Entrepreneurial Fund? We call it the Shills Fund for short, but it's named after the late Edward B. Shills, and it's a non-for-profit organization that's dedicated to advancing innovative approaches to entrepreneurial leadership in the oral health space. For Dr. Edward B. Shills, during his lifetime, was very active as the executive director for the Dental Manufacturers of America and later the Dental Trade Alliance. He was not only a business person, but he was skilled in the field of law, and he was also on faculty at the University of Pennsylvania. He was a revolutionary kind of human being, but devoted to the advancement of oral health through advancing the dental entrepreneurial spirit. So the the Edward B. Shills Fund was formed in his memory, and we invest in the projects that champion some of his values and his ideals, hopefully to the best of our ability. And we recognize outstanding individuals, organizations, associations, and programs which influence the oral health community in the public health space. From dental student innovation all the way to young investigators to mature innovators in the research and commercial and industrial space. We devote this kind of webinar. And we're very proud today to have with us a representative from the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research that's part of the National Institutes of Health. The main biomedical and behavioral research arm of the U.S. government that resides in the Department of Health and Human Services. I spent most of my own career right here at the NIH also. And while I retired in 2006, after nearly 42 years of work in research, I still work from time to time here at the NIDCR. And our mission at the NIDCR is to advance the fundamental knowledge about dental, oral, and craniofacial sciences to advance oral health, not only domestically in the United States, but globally around the world, and translating the research into prevention and early detection and treatment strategies to improve health everywhere, health through global health. So with that background, let me introduce to you one of our key staff people who is in charge of some of this translation process to help us move our investments from the bench all the way to the chair side and to the community, but to move it from research into some commercial development, products, devices, and etc., advancing oral health. Without further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. Orlando Lopez, who is a biomedical engineer by background, with more than 15 years experience leading that process of translating innovative medical technologies into human use, and has done it not only here, but previously in previous life with the Food and Drug Administration. So he knows a lot, not only about the mechanisms for research, but the mechanisms that relate to regulatory processes that enable products to reach the marketplace. So I will introduce Orlando right now, and he's going to take you through what mechanisms are available from our institute. We are one of, by the way, 27 institutes and centers in our agency, the National Institutes of Health. And we work closely with the other agencies, with the other constituents of NIH, as well as the other agencies in our Department of Health and Human Services. So I'll let Orlando take it from here. Orlando, it's yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Louis and Jasmine, for that wonderful introduction. Very kind. And definitely an excellent segue to the discussion here today. So really pleased to be here with you to go over some different aspects and different considerations on our mission statement, as Louis very nicely provided, in supporting the advancing of oral health through translational research, driving innovation, cutting-edge innovation, and a number of different creative and unique funding opportunities through our small business program, as well as other mechanisms that support overall translational research, as well as product development from different perspectives. So I will jump right into it. And so definitely the mission of NIDCR is very diverse in the context of the broad spectrum of areas that we touch through advancing oral health by innovative research, translational research, behavioral research, and a lot of different capabilities and opportunities for training our future clinicians and scientists. We cover a number of different disease areas, incredibly diverse and multidisciplinary program areas, cover the different diseases, as well as a number of different spectrums from prevention, detection, diagnostics, and management and treatment of these different conditions. Through the development and support of the development of cross-cutting approaches from the very foundational basic science through more applied and clinical research down to the point of community-based practices. And we do this through a number of different programmatic areas across different topics and different capabilities, but in a very collegial and collaborative way across NIDCR, but as well with our partners outside in government and academia and industry. So the priority areas of NIDCR are really founded on a patient-centric translational scientific spectrum, where we have really considerations for the patient in the center, and every aspect of the research, whether it's at the basic level or a more clinical and translational level, is really centered around human-centric perspectives through different goals. And the first goal is to really establish cellular, molecular, behavioral, environmental determinants that are unique to be able to share across different systems. The second goal is then to develop precise and individualized ways to managing and preventing dental, oral, and craniofacial diseases. Then is to also accelerate the translation of all this research and the uptake of new discoveries through a robust pipeline and an enhanced ecosystem that is able to nurture all these different technology discoveries into actual products. Nurturing diverse future generations of scientists through very creative and supportive and diverse training programs, as well as really expanding our reach across the landscape through very strategic partnerships with our sister federal agencies, as well as with other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So where to find NIDCR funding opportunities? So we have a website that's definitely very rich in content. And specifically, I would guide everyone to our grant program areas from the extramural programmatic perspective, where we have a number of different program areas, like I mentioned earlier, and you can dig into each one and find the specific topic areas that the different program areas will support, as well as a particular programmatic contact person that you may be able to reach to explore and try to seek some feedback about your project or idea that you're putting together. So there's a number of resources in the homepage. There's funding opportunity announcements that keep getting updated on a regular basis. There is future research initiatives that will be coming down the pike. And then, of course, our strategic plan and a number of other seminal publications and activities can be found in this page. So definitely encourage everyone to always keep an eye on that if you're interested in this space. From the perspective of biomedical product development and commercialization, it is a very complex space. As we all know, the medical product development space is the most complex regulated space. And so there's a number of different factors that come into play when thinking about trying to translate a new discovery ideation process idea from a basic science perspective into an innovation that will ultimately get into a human use. And so there's many different aspects. There's clinical factors to consider, and this one's particularly around refers to the indication, the functionality, the utility of the product from a clinical perspective. What is the clinical significance, and how that's going to be affecting the patient? Specifically, and most importantly, in the early stages of development, is really important to consider the safety aspect. Although it's kind of like a double-edged sword. From basic science, the goal is to innovate and to be novel, but novelty raises questions around safety, and so definitely keeping an eye on the safety component for a particular new technology, especially the most innovative, cutting-edge technologies. To become feasible, really need to be de-risked as much as possible from a safety perspective. And of course, effectiveness and showing what it can do from an innovative perspective is important as well, but that should come second, particularly at the early stages. The non-clinical factors to consider, of course, point to the business need, the market-related demand, intellectual property matters, reimbursement considerations, and overall funding structures and technical infrastructure that might be necessary to actually support a regulatory approval if that's relevant to your particular technology. But nonetheless, there's a number of funding and federal agencies that are most prominently involved across this different cycle of product development. The early stages, NIH, of course, is very involved, and that's really our bread and butter, supporting the early stage discovery. But then, as we get closer to human use or trying to work towards human use, other agencies start becoming also very relevant and very important and an integral part of this discussion. So FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, of course, takes very seriously the different considerations that are needed and the compliance of these different considerations to get a product to human use. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is also very important, especially in the consideration of potential reimbursement for a technology. And so there is just a number of different key items that new projects, especially those seeking product development type of funding, should be considering, in their application. And there's specific sections in those applications that will require, demonstrations around feasibility, really discussing the approach in a very clear way, what might be the regulatory strategy, and of course, how are you going to get this to market from a business standpoint, so the commercialization plan becomes more and more relevant as the projects progress and mature. So there's a number of different roadblocks impeding the success of a lot of the translation of novel technologies. And innovative ideas, of course, are complex, but there's a lot of failure, when it comes to demonstrating this type of capabilities and new product, innovative product characteristics in a performance testing approach that is sufficiently adequate to demonstrate safety and then effectiveness, especially for the products that are going to go towards the FDA approval process. And so some of the regulatory drivers that should definitely be considered early on in the product development and R&D process are definitely top of mind is clinical need, making sure that the technology is driven by a clinical need, and having some idea about potential indication early on really sets the stage for road mapping a technology development plan that is robust and most aligned with the potential regulatory requirements in the future. The different aspects of characterization and how the different technologies are able to be demonstrated from perspective of safety, preclinical safety, and effectiveness, need to be considered on a case-by-case basis, and really having good communication across, the scientific, clinical teams, regulatory teams, and the business aspects, of course, are very important. Typically, there's a lack of adequate characterization of safety performance, particularly for novel technologies, emerging technologies. Some of the challenges particularly have to do with the fact that every new technology, very novel technology, may require very specific or proprietary approaches, test methods, and that creates, of course, bottlenecks in terms of capabilities and resources. There is also limited considerations or abilities to do control for manufacturing processes, and so the scale up of a lot of these early stage technologies can become a challenge in some respect. But overall, there is a number of different steps in the life cycle of product development when a project goes from basic science to identifying that there is potential innovation in the science that is being conducted, and that there might be some commercialization opportunities for a particular idea. It has to go through a process of vetting, understanding the market, the product requirements, and really bringing together capable teams, that can really understand the landscape and the particular needs across the spectrum of this cycle is very, very important. Getting to a point where there is some feasibility demonstration, prototyping, and getting to a point of like potential human readiness, and implementation. But from the perspective of actually getting to that regulatory approval, clinical testing, there is a lot of work that needs to happen in terms of verification and validation, and that characterization stage, tends to be make or break type of activity, because many projects tend to fail, or at least fail achieving regulatory approval at this stage, because they're not able to fully demonstrate the ability of preclinical safety before the project can move forward to human testing. Particularly if there's no safety precedent to move the technology forward. Some examples can be patient-related or more product-related considerations. There are specific parameters affecting, in this case, especially for products that are related to patient contact, like biomaterials, implantable devices, any type of immune response and immunogenicity, reaction can be, a significant issue. So making sure that the early stage science, takes into account a lot of this, later stages consideration, in the earlier possible, it will be really helpful in terms of streamlining a lot of these considerations and being able to align a lot of the early stage activities of R&D to, those that might be required for later stage development, such as biocompatibility and other considerations that will affect the long-term clinical outcome of, particular technology. So driving the translation of these emerging technologies is really comes down to like a risk-benefit balance. Regulation, is really tied to risk and innovation. Is also, kind of double-edged sword in that respect. So mitigating the risk could be achieved through specific design considerations of the technology, taking into account particular guidance, from subject matter experts or particular organizations or agencies like FDA, NIH, and others. There is, of course, consensus standards, that are typically developed by different industry groups. So taking into account those and other best practices that might be available. And especially for early stage projects, smaller teams, multi-domain collaborations and strategic partnerships can become a really significant way to push the science forward and be able to leverage and share resources as much as possible. So depending on the clinical indication for use associated with the labeling of a particular project or product, there might be different requirements on how to best provide and demonstrate the evidence that might be required to obtain FDA approval. So some of the testing could be achieved through just bench testing. Some might be through animal testing, and some might be needing to do more advanced testing, more human type of data might be required, and in some other cases, and nowadays more so, the relevance and reliability of real world evidence and real world data, and the integration of those elements into demonstrating the feasibility and the safety of early stage products at this point is becoming more and more so. And so relying more on real world information is becoming a better ability to leverage existing information, existing data, to be able to get projects and products out faster through the regulatory approval process. So there is some considerations. There is typically some differences in culture when we talk about academic scientific endeavors and entrepreneurial endeavors from a scientific perspective. So thinking about it from the typical or more traditional funding mechanism like the research project grants, like an R1 and R21, and some other typical funding mechanism, as compared to the small business innovation research grants or science technology transfer research grants, which are more commercialization, product development perspective. I think that it's important to keep some of this in mind as some, especially scientists in the academic field, would like to try to venture towards more commercialization activities. Understanding and recognizing that there is just a number of different, and very unique mindset differences, as to how the projects should be pitched in the application and what the overall goal would be for the different mechanisms is really, really important. The other aspect is the different considerations around timelines. So the research project grants typically are more like hypothesis-driven type projects, whereas the SBIR STTR mechanism calls for more milestone-driven, product development-driven. And then, of course, the timelines are very different. Thinking about more from the commercialization perspective, how the product is going to get to market, and really having a more robust idea about the budgets and the different components of bringing everything together to mitigate the risk, but also to bring together the different teams at the different stages for the product life cycle is, critically important. So being able to tell a good story in a grant application from the perspective of the funding mechanism and what it calls for is really, really critical consideration for success. Some tips in terms of recommendations for folks that might be interested in pursuing NIDCR, NIH funding opportunities is to really do your homework and do your homework early enough to allow time for robust discussion, getting feedback from different program officials. So engaging program officers across the different program areas that might be most relevant to a particular project is definitely very, very important and very, very helpful. Sometimes, I'm very surprised, to see applications come in and then go through entire, review cycles and hear from an applicant after, the application was not successful and having that be the very first time that I ever engaged with the applicant. It would be very helpful to engage with the applicant before the application is submitted to be able to provide some helpful hints and perspective about what some of the most important areas and maybe particularly about alignment of the project with the institute's interest and mission statement. So, but there is a number of different considerations to how to engage with program officers. So, reach out to a particular subject matter expert, identify the program area that is relevant to your project. They will be able to, provide programmatic oversight and also provide that perspective, as well as give you some insights on particular policies and procedures that might be relevant for that particular time or for that particular mechanism that you might be considering. And just overall, really providing a lot of different, the program officers provide a lot of different support to not only the PIs, both in academia and industry, but also work very intimately across NIH, NIDCR and NIH to really bring forward some very creative and unique programs that are representative of the gaps and the needs, across the scientific scope. So in our case, we definitely look to identify and create and develop new programs that address significant gap areas in dental, oral, and craniofacial research, and any other, gaps that might help, promote public health in dentistry in that respect. Some consideration beyond the product development perspective that is also really critically important, especially for projects that are looking to get into the human translational spectrum and to go from the preclinical to the more clinical human use stage, is to really consider the NIH definition of what a clinical trial is. There is excellent resource at the NIH website that walks you through decision tree based on your particular situation and the particular objectives of your work. You may be able to walk through that tool, and the tool will be able to give you some perspective as to whether or not your human study might fall into a clinical trial per NIH definition or not. So definitely encourage folks to take advantage of this resource as you start crafting your project, because there is a number of funding announcements that do not necessarily support clinical trials. And so if the project comes in trying to propose a clinical trial in response to a funding announcement that does not support clinical trials, then that application will be rejected. And so having that perspective early on is very helpful, as well as engaging with your program officer to clarify any any points of confusion that might be relevant to your particular project. Just because you do involve human subjects in a particular study does not necessarily mean that it is considered a clinical trial. Per definition, typically clinical trials are related to an intervention, to having an intervention and measuring the outcome of that intervention in a particular study. So definitely happy to chat with anyone that might be proposing a project with some nuances in this space, but definitely it's something, a point of clarification that needs to be well defined in the application. So here I will just provide an overview of the particular program that I oversee, which is the Dental Materials Biomaterials program, as well as a breakdown of the small business program at NIDCR. So the Dental Materials and Biomaterials program is primarily a technology development program that encompasses a number of different technology areas, particularly around novel biomaterials. Some are intended for tissue reconstruction, repair, restoration, a lot of different types of nanomaterials, nanotechnology approaches, and other very innovative approaches for biomaterial development, coatings, new implants, smart materials, having a number of different very interesting and complex properties. There is also a significant area supporting oral biosensors, dental Internet of Things type of products that aim to assess or enable the assessment, the monitoring or diagnostics of different dental and overall health conditions and situations. There is also a significant space or significant interest in driving digital dentistry technologies, which can be related to the development of novel imaging technologies or the application of existing imaging to novel applications. And with that comes, with the hardware comes significant software type of technologies that make part of this digital dentistry space, which are also very well supported and very much a priority at NIDCR. There is a number of different emerging and cutting-edge additive or fabrication approaches like additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and device fabrication that would enable point-of-care type of applications and many other capabilities. So to accelerate the clinical translation and improve product development in this space, we are very much committed and engaging in interagency collaborations with other federal partners, including NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, where we support and we have supported the development of research program, looking to advance the development of clinically relevant standards for new dental biomaterials and other type of technologies, as well as very closely working with FDA through our Memorandum of Understanding and collaboration agreement across many different product areas, and to really try to understand what are some of the bottlenecks that our FDA colleagues might have in terms of evaluating emerging technologies. And we can try to work with them, try to understand what are some of these key things, from a scientific perspective that need to be addressed, and or help build awareness and educate the new innovators that are bringing these new technologies, so that they can, do their performance evaluations and design their projects in a way that will help eventually the FDA have a better sense of the particular performance and risk mitigation of these emerging technologies. Other areas in the digital technologies in dentistry. So basically it's a recap of the different interest of emerging imaging approaches. There is oral biosensing that we just discussed, and I will give a quick example on some of this. We definitely support clinical implementations across different technology platforms, including decision support tools. There's a number of different planning, predictive planning, treatment planning, and even surgical navigation type of capabilities that have been emerging in the past few years with very robust capabilities to support a number of different clinical indications, including craniofacial, maxillofacial reconstructions, and other very advanced and complex surgical procedures. Ways to leverage digital platforms also to improve clinical workflows and patient outcomes, and an overall device fabrication that would, of course, enable a lot more precision medicine type approaches, and hopefully and ideally advance patient outcomes in a most effective way. There is a number of different, and we continuously keep putting out a number of different initiatives, funding announcements around, business development, product development, that would advance a lot of these different technology areas. In the past few years, NIDCR actually started a new program area supporting bioinformatics, computational biology, and data science. And so this is very much, a space that we're very focused and very strongly leading, across a number of different segments of technology areas and disease applications. Another example of digital type technologies that we're very much advancing, supporting, and very, very much involved, particularly through the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, is the use of biodevices, oral biodevices, and biosensing technologies that could enable capabilities for discovery, diagnosis, tracking, monitoring different conditions. For the COVID pandemic, we're very much involved with the Rapid Acceleration of Diagnostics program, the RADX program, particularly the RADX Radical initiative, where we supported a number of different projects that were working on the oral biosensing for screening, diagnosis, and monitoring of COVID-19. These projects really look to leverage the accessibility of the oral cavity, to the rest of the body, and also as a way to be able to access a number of different potential biomarker targets that could be captured, with some very creative functionalized sensing technologies to be able to detect not only specific agents of disease, but also other, types of progression of disease and health within the oral cavity and the overall, system. So there is other projects that we have recently put forward in the past few years, leveraging a lot of the different data-driven tools and access to increasing amounts of data, particularly in the space of biomaterials. And so there is a significant need to really help accelerate innovation in biomaterials, dental biomaterials, restorative materials. And we feel that there is just a need to really help and support better ways to enhance and integrate knowledge and capabilities in this space, particularly breaking down a lot of silos that are there across different domain areas. And so the goal of this particular initiative was to really accelerate clinical translation to the development of these data-driven tools to address complexities in inefficiencies of biomaterial development in a way to facilitate eventually these regulatory evaluations in order to get these new emerging biomaterials to human use. So we are leveraging for this particular project program area, we collaborated with FDA on leveraging their medical device development tools program and framework in order to be able to achieve the qualification by FDA of these data-driven tools for the support of research and development activities for products that will eventually go to FDA. And so some of the gaps, particularly that we look to support through this program, are better ways to predict preclinical characterization of safety and effectiveness in the context of long-term clinical performance, and to have just better approaches and better ways to access this type of data and be able to share this type of biomaterial, mechanical, biologic, chemical information that would help, streamline the discovery of new formulations and the overall assessment at the preclinical stage in a more predictive way for these new biomaterial products. So jumping into just an overview about the small business program at NIDCR, this is a mandated, Congress-mandated program with a set aside of about 3% total NIH budget to stimulate innovation and to stimulate innovation, meet research and developmental needs, and of course to increase private sector commercialization of innovations that are developed through federal R&D funding, and to foster and encourage participation from disadvantaged persons and minorities and women-owned businesses. And so the distribution of the small business program in terms of different types of funding mechanisms and different topic areas that have been funded at NIDCR are covered here. So for the most part, a lot of the small business program funds have gone to support a number of different dental materials, biomaterials type projects, but as well as a number of other areas, including oral salivary cancer biology projects, other types of clinical trial and practices, some behavioral type of projects. So, it's really pretty diverse in terms of scope and topic area of the projects that have been traditionally supported at NIDCR through the small business program. This graph shows some of the breakdown between the different mechanisms, the SBIR program versus the STTR program. The SBIR program has been the older standing program, is the larger program compared to the STTR program, but nonetheless, I mean, they're both about the same competitive level. And for the most part, the STTR program, the Science Technology Transfer Research Grant, tends to be most well received and typically a great vehicle for academic spin-offs. But there is a number of other types of applications, mechanisms, including the supplemental funding, as well as our commercialization readiness program, which tends to support more late stage development projects. And so those are all, really excellent mechanisms depending on the project and where, the readiness of the particular project is. So this is more like a summary of this breakdown of the different small business grants. The phase 1 is typically is a smaller grant. Right now, it provides about $300,000 of funding for first 12 months to demonstrate early stage feasibility and proof of concept of a technology. And then the phase 2 component, it tends to be a larger award, nearly $2 million for about 3 years, to cover more of the later stage, prototyping, and then some of the performance testing. Depending on the project, some projects can even get to FDA approvals or clearances, or IDE, IND type of submission, as outcomes. But it really depends on the project. Some projects are they can get there quicker than others. But other program opportunities are the commercialization readiness. Like I mentioned, these are essentially a continuation of a phase 2 type grant for another 3 years to get the projects, to a more advanced stage, especially in the context of regulatory approvals, scale up, manufacturing, and commercialization. So overall, there is a number of different NIDCR funding opportunities that could be, tapped into in terms of supporting different technologies in the digital dentistry space. There is the small business opportunity programs, and some of these may not necessarily be active funding announcements at this point, but nonetheless, the particular topic areas described here are still very much of interest and priority for NIDCR funding. So if there's no special emphasis announcement currently available for project or a topic that innovators are looking to get funds for, they are very welcome to submit, that particular idea in response to the parent solicitation or the omnibus solicitation, which is, the kind of like more general call for any type of project. But that said, it's definitely a great idea, again, to reach out to the different program officers to really get, some more current input as to the best way to structure the grant or the particular project aims, as well as to identify a particular funding announcement that might be most relevant. There is other mechanisms that beyond just the typical omnibus solicitation, including academic industrial partnership programs. There is national dental practice-based research networks that are typically very, very robust and could be very rich in terms of accessing data or being able to support specific types of collaboration with certain technologies and to get evidence to support those. There is NIH parent grants and another type of opportunities, including some of the more traditional R01 mechanism, but this particular one is to support bioengineering type projects, and the purpose of this particular funding announcement is to support and encourage collaborations between life science and physical scientists, and is very appropriate for technology development type projects and projects that may not necessarily be as hypothesis driven as a traditional R01 project. Something to keep in mind is that NIDCR does not support clinical trials through the small business program. However, it does support clinical trials through the UG3 UH3 mechanism, which is a phased mechanism. Is broken down into the UG3 part, which is the planning phase. Typically, it's about like a 12-month period, a much shorter period. And then the UH3, which is the actual implementation of the trial, after the plan has been approved. It is a very iterative process, once the award goes through, and definitely encourage anyone thinking about putting forward an application that may involve a clinical trial to Dr. Dana Fisher, who is our director for the clinical trials program, clinical practice program, and she will definitely be able to provide some, more insight on the particular expectations and requirements of this program. A more recent, really, fresh off the press initiative that is just being launched by NIDCR. It's a really exciting opportunity on driving collaborative science to achieve disruptive innovations in dental, oral, and craniofacial research through an RM1 mechanism. This mechanism does not include or does not support clinical trials. There will be, just to kind of give you a heads up, there will be a pre-application webinar providing details about the scope and the objectives of this particular initiative, scheduled for Wednesday, October 4th. Here is the link. Please register. It will be announced in our, it's already probably announced in our website, NIDCR website. And this initiative is led by Dr. Amanda Melillo. Here's an email, so definitely encourage folks to reach out to her for any particular information. But in general, it aims to support highly integrated research to address very challenging questions with potential significant advancement of DOC areas. Dental materials, restorative materials, and any other type of transformative science is definitely very much, a part of that initiative. Also, to give you another perspective, NIDCR also, participates in countless trans NIH funding engagements and opportunities. And two of those examples are here. We're very much involved in the NIH Blueprint for Neuroscience Research, which focuses on the development of technologies for neurological type conditions, and the HEAL initiative, which focuses on pain management, pain treatment, and understanding a lot of different pain aspects of human health, as well as potential treatments and alternatives that may be able to mitigate a lot of the addiction aspects of the opioid epidemic. Now we'll be kind of change gears a little bit to provide some insight as to how we support some of the training career development activities at NIDCR, and to some extent these program areas in terms of research training also mirror a lot of the other initiatives across NIH, but we really aim to support the entire spectrum of the scientific workforce development, and very much supporting the inclusion and the growth of diversity in the scientific workforce across the spectrum through many different program areas, both intramurally at NIDCR, NIH, research activities, as well as extramurally in a number of different, across the different academic and industry collaborators, partners, and grantees that are part of the ecosystem. So we support very early stage from high school, college students, predoctoral training, through dual degree candidates in dental and scientific research programs, as well as postdoctoral, junior faculty, and more senior investigators. There is a lot of these mechanisms to supply and provide opportunities for being considered for administrative supplements, which will be additional awards to currently existing projects to address, maybe unplanned activities that may have risen, throughout the life of an awarded project. That merit additional consideration to really enhance the project, as well as provide opportunities for individuals from diverse backgrounds, trainees from diverse backgrounds, to really take advantage of jumping into a more mature project, getting support and assistance from a mentoring team, as well as, of course, the support from the institution, and many other activities that might be supported through NIH and ADCR and other of the partner entities that could make part of this different training opportunities. So there is again at NIDCR, there is significant effort and priorities to support predoctoral training to postdoctoral stage through a number of different awards. There's transition awards. There's mentored type of awards, as well as across NIH. There's many other different types of research supplements to existing grants that could be available. Most recently, we had a program that just closed out the deadline for the application on September 15th, and then this particular program, just to highlight, that is meant to support the development of clinician scientists with very customized career development activities, and provides very unique opportunity for training. And one of the most important aspects and unique features of this type of program is that it really helps lock in a good amount of effort or time that could be devoted to research, especially from a clinical practitioner. That time is very precious. At the same time, of course, we very much supportive and very much encourage new investigators and early stage investigators to work towards establishing that independence, and there's many different programs available to do that, as well as a lot of the programmatic staff is available through a number of different workshops and activities, both live and in person, that could help really boost the opportunity for network and for engaging, for mentoring, and for being able to identify and become aware of a lot of different funding announcements, and just overall support that might be really critical to help these early stage investigators move forward through this scientific workforce pipeline to a more robust and successful platform for their career. So with that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share some of this overview with you, as well as here highlight a lot of my colleagues at the Extramural Research Division. And thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Orlando.
Is that good?
I don't even know if you took a breath. That was phenomenal.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. I just keep going.
That was really good.
Really? Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you approved. That's good. It makes me
Probably
happy.
a good resource that people can go to over time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what time.
Because
Well,
it's a lot to absorb. It's a lot to absorb, and they'll have to look at it several times. I'm thinking, Jamie, it's almost a resource to put on the website.
Oh, absolutely. This is absolutely going to go on our website. Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're
Okay.
going to be
But that's
sending
a
it out.
note to it, because even the web page with the personnel that's who are in charge of each area,
Uh-huh.
always confusing to our community,
Mhm.
and they need to know that who to go to.
Sure, sure.
It's like a map.